Spring Valley Bank shows that are devoted to helping you be a better investor in this market. I'd like to thank Rachel Ann. She's producing this series, and I want to remind you what I've said in the past. Rachel Ann is at your service, and I invite you to go to the Spring Valley Bank YouTube channel, the RE Partners of Greater Cincinnati, for video listings of local off-market properties. Rachel Ann spends a lot of time looking for those kinds of opportunities for you. These are non-MLS properties, and there are opportunities that you may not find otherwise. So a big thank you for Rachel Ann taking the time to do that and producing this. In the past, this was actually our third time getting together. The first time we got together, we spoke about the history of the bank and talked a little bit about how this bank came to be and some of the things that the bank does. Last week, our second opportunity to spend time with you, we spoke a little bit about the flip loans. And today we thought we'd spend a little bit of time on the buy and hold portfolio loans. As many of you know, and just in case you don't, let me be clear, a portfolio loan is a loan in which the lender holds on. They're lending their own money and they hold on to that loan. That loan's not sold to Fannie, Freddie, or the Federal Home Loan Bank. That loan is kept in-house. Spring Valley Bank's two primary loans are the flip loan and the buy and hold investment loan, both of which are portfolio loans. And as portfolio loans, they are not reported to the credit bureau. And that's a pretty significant factor when you're taking a look at which way to go. Because when we start talking about a loan for a property that's going to be an income generating property or something that you're going to hold in your portfolio, there are several questions that need to be answered before we can determine what's in your best interest. When people call in here and they're looking for that kind of a loan, we need to establish what's best for you. And the way that we do that is we'll ask the questions. Number one, right off the bat, how many mortgages do you have right now? If you have less than 4, you're a candidate for a Freddie Mac loan. If you have 4 and above, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't get a Freddie Mac loan. But anything above 4, Freddie Mac, the underwriters will take a look at that loan, and it has to meet additional criteria to determine whether they will do another conventional loan for you. Another question that we'll ask as we try and determine what's in your best interest: do you have a rough idea of your credit score? Because obviously Freddie Mac has some credit score minimums. And if you've had some credit score challenges, that's fine, but it may preclude you from qualifying for Freddie Mac, in which case the portfolio loan would be in your best interest. Another question that we'll ask you is the condition of the property. Tell us a little bit about the property, because there are certain properties that Freddie Mac will not underwrite based on condition. And that's another situation in which the portfolio loan comes into play because, as you know, or maybe you don't know if you're brand new to Spring Valley Bank, we will generate loans for properties that need to be rehabbed. That's one of our strengths. You can incorporate the rehab funding right into the loan, something that investors like quite a bit. So those are just some of the questions that we may ask you, and understand the reason we're asking is to determine what's in your best interest, because our goal here is always to do what's in your best interest, not what's in our interest. It's what's in your best interest, because we're consumers too.
Absolutely.
We're investors as well, and we just want to make sure that you're taken care of properly. So Veska, do you have anything to add before we move on a little bit on this?
I only had one thing. So kind of taking a step back and talking about the properties that need some work. There's a couple of things that we do not cover that the bank does not cover. And that just kind of putting together your list, we do not cover landscaping, demolition, or appliances that are not built in. And those are just a couple of things to add to the mix.
Yeah, Veska's right, and that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up, because that applies both to the flip loan as well as the buy and hold. There are a couple of minor differences between the two with regards to the rehab, but overall it's essentially the same. Obviously, on a flip, it would be really nice if in your marketing material you say fully equipped property, which would mean it would have a stove and refrigerator and so forth. However, most aspiring buyers are thinking in terms of, well, they'll probably have to buy a new stove and refrigerator.
Mhm.
Anything that's not built in on a single family property typically cannot go on that rehab list. The other side of that is on an investment property where you're going to hold on to that property and you're going to have a tenant come in. Typically, a tenant isn't thinking that I got to buy a stove and refrigerator to move into this apartment building. So appliances typically are available to be put on your rehab list. With regards to the rehab list, one of the questions that gets asked is, how do I submit it? Do you have a special form or anything like that? And I touched on this before, but let me just say again, the rehab list can come in any format. We need it to be relatively detailed so someone, and often it's me, can come out to the property for a draw inspection, and I can refer to your rehab list, and rehab list is detailed enough. For instance, it might say 10 windows, and I'll be able to look around and see that those 10 windows have been installed and that draw is approved. And by the way, with regards to that rehab list, while we're talking about it as well, just know that in terms of requesting a draw, the work must be completed before a draw can be requested for that facet of your rehab. And the reason for that is if you just have 10 windows that have been delivered to the job site and they've not been installed, they could disappear. And that has happened. Actually, I went into a property where we had that very situation, and I called the investor and he got over there immediately. And so it can happen, but those things need to be done. So further with regards to the buy and hold, let me just say that this bank can do loans. One of the questions that comes up is, well, how big of a loan? What are the limitations? The bank can do loans up to $4.5 million. So that encompasses a lot of different types of real estate. It can be a multiple use facility where you have retail on the ground floor and you have apartments above. It could be a duplex, a triplex. It could be a small apartment building. The bank does all of those types of properties, the loans for those properties. One thing I might say that you should be aware of, this applies to flips as well as buy and holds. The property must have off-street parking to qualify for a loan. If it doesn't have off-street parking, they'll look at it. This bank will look at any property, any deal that you want to submit to the lending committee. They will review it. But I will tell you that the likelihood of getting a property that does not have off-street parking, the likelihood of getting it approved is very, very small. Let me just say unlikely. They believe in off-street parking for an apartment, whether it's an apartment building or a single family rental. That's just a policy here. So Veshka, am I overlooking anything here? Anything in particular?
No, and I don't know if this is getting into a different topic,
Okay.
but I know that sometimes folks will ask about multi-use properties, so like residential and that might have a commercial aspect to it. Those are very similar. Those loans are very similar to our buy and hold. Actually, it looks exactly the same. The only difference is that they are amortized over a longer period of time, and that the app fee is just a little bit more. But that might open up your playing field a little bit more too if you're looking for rental property or residential property upstairs, and then maybe a retail, in the front or the basement or something like that. It opens up your options as far as what your properties you're looking for. So I just thought I'd throw that in there. It looks exactly the same.
That was great. And let me say a follow up on two things that Rachel or that Beshka said. Rachel's our producer, sorry. Two things. One is with regards to the app fee. It is a little bit more expensive. It's $350 on a single family property. It's $500 on a commercial property. And the reason for that is it's real simple. The appraisal is more expensive. That's why that is. But just know that in both cases, if the deal is approved, that app fee is credited back to you on the settlement statement.
Yes.
If the deal is not approved, if it's turned down for any reason, the check will be voided and sent back to you. And the next thing, following up to what Beshka said, is with regards to the amortization period. The buy and hold loan is done on a 10-year balloon, meaning that it either needs to be paid off or refinanced after 10 years. However, the loan is amortized over 15 years. So that brings the payments down a little bit, which will help you a little bit in your cash flow situation. I just had a situation yesterday with a gentleman inquiring about this kind of a loan. And his goal there was to pay off this property, a duplex, as quickly as possible. Paying additional principal payments is certainly welcome and encouraged. Let me just say, on the buy and hold loan, it is written on a commercial loan, and as such, it does have a prepayment penalty, which is, and it works backwards. There's a three-point prepayment penalty if paid off in the first year, 2 point if paid off in the second year, 1 point if paid off in the third year, none thereafter. So the reason that is real important is because you'd have to take into consideration the cost of paying that off. Sometimes people will bring up, well, I'll just get, right now I can't qualify for Freddie Mac, so I'll just get a portfolio loan in a year when I'm in better situation, I'll refinance. Understand that completely. However, it has to make financial sense because you're going to have another set of closing costs and you're going to have to pay off the prepayment penalty there. Just something to consider. And as Beshka and I were speaking beforehand here, it's not unusual for people to begin with a portfolio loan for one of the aforementioned reasons. And after the third year, go ahead and refinance. And we can refinance you into a Freddie Mac loan here. We can do that once you qualify. So I think we've covered a lot. I'm not sure. Have any questions come in, Rachel Ann?
Yes, somebody wanted to know what would be the main difference from fix and flip to a buy and hold as far as rehab costs are concerned. And that's coming from George over in Norwood.
Hi, George. Thanks for tuning in. The big difference in the rehab cost, it's really going to be up to you, but what it probably will come down to is the finish. As a buy and hold, something that you're going to hold on to, typically, and I'm not saying all the time, because I never advocate lipstick on a pig, but typically a buy and hold rental, you're not going to put in as nice of a finish as you are in something that you're going to flip. I can tell you that the flips that are most successful are the one right now in this market. Virtually all flips are successful. We know that, but the ones that do really well and are sought after, because we have investors here that do such high quality work. When someone hasn't been successful in getting one of their properties, they'll tell them, look, when you buy another property, I'm interested, would you follow up? Those kinds of investors are doing a fabulous, just putting in the real high quality touches and finishes. It's typically not the same on a buy and hold, especially if it's in an apartment building. And again, I'm not trying to say anything negative about apartment building owners or ownership, but the quality of the finish typically is not the same as something that you're going to flip and want to get maximum dollar for. I hope that answered it. Any other questions?
Yes, we have a question from Jay, just Jay in Fairfield. He wants to know, as far as investing in a multifamily, is it smart to hire a property manager?
Once again, Jay, and thanks for tuning in and thanks for the question. I really appreciate it. I love the interest. Once again, that's going to come down to you. And let me just use myself as an example. I'm done with all my properties. They're all sold now. I was a very bad property manager. And that was simply because I was just way too easy. If you want to get into real estate investing and you are like me, an easy, soft touch, it can still be done. But property management is probably going to give you peace of mind because they will be the ones interacting with your tenants. They will be the one collecting the rents. They will be the one taking care of things and fielding calls that you would normally get. Property management fees can go anywhere from a low of 6%, and that's pretty reasonable. And they can go up as high as 15%. It just depends on what all services you want them to do. If they do all services, including outdoor property maintenance and landscaping and all that, you're going to pay a little bit more. So it's strictly up to the investor. I can tell you my experience here has been most of the multiple family property owners are managing their properties themselves. I say most, not all, because there are plenty that are using management services. I hope that helps answer. Preska, you have something to add on that?
I'm just kind of thinking out loud. It's very situational. It depends on whether or not you're doing this full time and the number of properties you own. And I mean, it just depends on what your comfort level is, where some people love, doing the piece of dealing with tenants and doing the work, and others don't. So it really depends on you and your portfolio, your specific situation. So very different.
That was a great
person to
answer.
person.
Great answer. And it reminds me of having met I've since met others, but the first time I met a gentleman, a property owner, and he owns quite a few properties. He told me, Remo, he said, everybody thinks I'm just the maintenance man, because I come and I take care of things and I do things, but I don't let any of them know that I'm actually the owner. I found that quite interesting. So he can diffuse any situation because it's not on me. I'm just here to take care of your problem. So just an interesting way to approach it.
I like
Yeah,
that.
that was good. Rachel Ann, any others?
Yes, we do have one more from an L in Cheviot. If once I've found a property, what is the next step in financing and getting to financing?
Okay, I think I've done so much of the talking. Let Veska answer that.
Okay. So it depends on if it's, actually, regardless of whether it's a flip or a buy and hold, we're going to need to collect some financial paperwork from you. So we're going to need a loan application form, a credit authorization form, 2 years of income tax returns, 60 days of bank statements, and 30 days of pay stubs. That's going to kind of be the financial overview of yourself. The other piece to the puzzle is going to be an accepted contract to purchase, a rehab list if applicable, and a check, an app fee. Once you have all of those put together, then if it's the Friday prior to our committee meeting, which happens on Wednesdays, then you will be on the roster for that week. So that's just kind of an overview of kind of cadence of how we flow and what you need in order to get in that meeting for that week.
Very good. Any others? Okay, that was our last question. It was another great opportunity to be with you today. Remember what I said at the outset here. Remember to visit our YouTube channel. You might find some real value there because Rachel Ann is putting in a lot of time to help you find off-market properties and deals. Just go to our YouTube channel, which is RE Partners of Greater Cincinnati. Feel free to call us anytime, Veska or myself, Remo Loreto, and we'll be more than happy to try and help you any way that we possibly can. And also check out the Spring Valley Bank's YouTube channel for Friday's Flip of the Week and to watch this live stream series. And if you had to miss part of it, or if you want to share it with someone, that is recorded there for someone to watch at a future date. Thanks for your time. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.